What's up YouTube, this is Shuttleboy and I'm back with yet another video. Today's video continuing the Ask Me Anything series. One of you guys asked me in the comments below to rank every Kanye album from worst to best. So we're gonna go ahead and get right into that with a guest of mine. So let's get right into it, guys. Alright, so we're going to rank every Kanye album from worst to best. I actually have a friend of mine coming in to do this video with me. His name is Bill, and he's going to rank all the albums from worst to best with me. And yeah, we're going to share our thoughts on each other's lists as well, and what we think of each of these albums too. So without further ado, let's get him in here and start this list. I'm gonna introduce you a little bit, just so then like they're not just like, who's this random kid that showed up? So how long have I known you? Like, I've known you since like beginning of middle school or something like that.
Yeah.
So we're like 20 years old now, so, or in our 20s should I say.
Right.
I'm 20, but obviously a while, and we talk about music like a decent amount, I would say.
Yeah.
Like pretty much like, for those of you who don't know, like we play basketball a lot together, and we just talk about when we're there and stuff. We'll talk about music a lot, other things too, but a lot of the time we'll talk about either basketball or music. I told you about that I was going to do this video about this, and then I sort of told you like sort of my list at the time, and then you were like pretty PO'd about it, so I thought it'd be cool to like have you in it. You said you were down, so yeah, we'll just go into our list, and I'll start off and I'll say we're only counting like the solo ones, so we're just gonna do like our least favorite to our favorite of the like 8 albums of Kanye. My least favorite, we're gonna start off with mine, and that is Ye. I just don't really care for Ye that much. I think the whole concept of it, I think, is a cool idea. I think it has some purpose to it, but a big thing when it comes to this list for me is like replayability, if I'll ever come back to music or how often I'll come back to music. And for me at least, this like Ye is just most definitively the one that I'll never come back to, or least come back to. That's mine. Least favorite. Is yours any different or
no? I had Ye all the way at the bottom as well. I think when you look at his production with this piece of work, you can tell that he hasn't lost his touch. However, I feel with just some of the lyrics, they're not bad, but I think when you compare some of his lyrics to some of the higher projects that we're going to talk about, you can definitely see that there's been a drop off.
I said this in one of my videos that I think a lot of you guys are not going to be happy with my next one. Number 7 I put is My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. Personally for me, like I said, that just like replay value wise, there's like 3 songs I'd say I'd replay a lot, but even that I don't really feel like I would that much. Some of the songs on there too I just think are overhyped. I've never felt that connected to Monster, for instance. My favorite song on there I would say is probably Devil in a New Dress, and I just like the Rick Ross part, and that's not even Kanye's part. I think like All the Lights and stuff, like those are really defining Kanye songs, but they just kind of, I think they got overplayed to me to a point that I just don't fondly remember them as well as I used to too. And there's really, like I said, only 3 or 4 songs that I really come back to. You say...
You're gonna be in some hot water after this one, man. I know.
I know.
I had Yeezus at 7. I know I talked about, obviously, Kanye with his production. It's not that I don't think it's bad. However, I feel like it's more of an overkill. Like, I almost feel like there's too much. If he toned it down a little bit, because I don't think his lyrics are nearly as bad. If he just took down some of the production a little bit, I feel like the project would be a little more easier to listen to. I feel like for me, it's kind of harder to go back and listen to that, but like kind of knocking Kanye for too much producing, like that's kind of hard to do because you have to remember how he started. But I just feel like overall, this isn't my favorite project by him.
I do really agree with the point that you were saying that a lot of the Kanye albums, it's easier to dive back into after a while, but I feel like with Yeezus for me, and it seemed like with you, maybe you would agree with this, that when you go back to it, it's kind of like, it's not as easy to jump into and just enjoy, because it's just so different, I guess, maybe. I don't know if it's just that, but for me sometimes it just takes me a while to get used to that like sound again. Transition to my next album. My next album on this list was Yeezus, actually, for number 6. There's a lot of uniqueness to it, and I really appreciated that. I think the production, a lot of the beats to it, I think are really unique, and just like it feels like a really aggressive album as far as like him just really diving into this idea that he had and just going full force. I feel like some of the songs got old for me really fast. A lot of the like ballad, like love song, like songs on here, I don't know, I get tired of them pretty quickly. Definitely some songs I'll go back to, but just not as often. What was your like 6th album, would you say?
For 6th, I had The Life of Pablo. I think when you look at the time that this project came out, obviously like we were way far removed from his first 5 albums. I think it's not terrible. Ultra Light Beams, that's a very good opening track. He does a very good job with how he starts his projects. Famous, we all know about Famous, obviously. Feedback, very good. Waves was one of my favorites when it came out as well. Chris Brown also does a really good job with what he does in the song. Real Friends, obviously. That was a song that personally impacted me a lot. No More Parties in LA, also one of my personal favorites. It's just a song that I enjoy.
Going into my next album, my number 5 was then The Life of Pablo. I think it might not get enough credit that it deserves as far as when people might rank it. I'm not sure how everyone like definitively would rank it, but I remember just the build up to it and everything was, I don't know, a lot bigger than at least how the last one was. Even though it might not be as like lyrically like as quality, there's still some points in there that a lot of people really remember. There's a lot of definitive like songs in there that I feel like could fit along with a lot of his other like hit songs that a lot of people remember him for. I've said this before that my least favorite song, actually, I think of all of Kanye's, is probably Famous. I really don't like that song at all. It gets really repetitive and boring to me. Really don't like that song at all. Even discounting that there's a lot to like with this. It's not going to be like an old Kanye album by any means. I really like for what it has in it and for what it is, like what it gives me. What's your spiel?
I had 808s and Heartbreak. At the time this project came out, a lot of people didn't like it. Certainly nearly as not as much as I do now. The production, although at the time it wasn't received nearly as well, I think you look at the beginning, you've got Say You Will, another great opening track by him. Welcome to Heartbreak with Kid Cudi, you've got Heartless, you've got Amazing. Streetlights, I know not everybody is a huge fan of that song. However, I feel like that's a song that's kind of like either you like it or you don't. I personally like it a little bit more than the average person.
I do too.
So he's putting more production on what he's doing, not so much the lyrics per se.
My number 4 then is going to be Graduation. I really do like that one a lot. Graduation, I feel like, is kind of like a step up, him taking the thoughts of Late Registration and College Dropout and then taking that the next step and just kind of like changing it up a little bit. I don't know, it's kind of like a for better for worse kind of thing. I think it's good, like definitely I like it a lot, but I prefer the other style more, the older style. There's a lot of really good songs on this one though. I like a lot of the beats to this too, like for Flashing Lights and stuff. It's one that I really like, but I don't want to take it too far. I don't think it's like that much better than a lot of the other things he's made too.
I had Graduation 4th as well. Like you talked about, Everything I Am, Flashing Lights, you have Good Life on that album as well. Good Morning and Good Night, I feel like those are 2 songs that they do a good job of opening and closing the album as well. It's not quite like the College Dropout, Late Registration. I just feel like the energy, it's like a tiny step below. I know people that like say like this is their favorite album.
Yeah.
And like part of it is too because like it might have been like the first thing they like ever heard from him in like full length, and neither one of us seem to have that connection. I mean, this is still a very good album.
When I think of Kanye, I think of these songs kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the songs on here are the ones that I would say that for. The albums I haven't listed yet that are higher on this, I would say that, I mean, definitely there's songs on there for those albums too, but this one I think is like the most. You think of Kanye, like a lot of people have heard these songs that aren't even fans of him at all. We have 3 left from both of us. You share your top 3, say 3rd, 2nd, 1st. Yeah, I'll share mine then afterwards.
So for 3, I had Late Registration. A lot of people, they might not be like people's top songs, but I think if you look at the context of that album, and like these are all the songs. It's really good. I mean, it's for me, it's not above College Dropout. I think it's just slightly a step below that, because I feel like although it's very good, I feel like with College Dropout, which is going to be my second choice, I feel like it's just a slight step below, because when you look at College Dropout, We Don't Care, All Falls Down, Jesus Walks, you've got Never Let Me Down with Jay-Z, Get 'Em High, Slow Jams, Through the Wire, Family Business, Last Call. With the production, I think the production on College Dropout is just slightly better. I just personally think, I think the two are really close. Like, I almost feel like it's a 2A, 2B type of thing. Jumping into the top one, and I know that you had this one way down below. My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. As a whole, from top to bottom, I think this is his best project. But if you just go through it, you've got Dark Fantasy. Nicki Minaj is just starting this with her intro. You've got Gorgeous, you've got All the Lights, So Appalled, Monster, Blame Game. I just feel like that's the best Kanye I think you have, because that's coming off his whole thing with Taylor Swift at the VMAs. And a lot of people were like, we don't ever want to hear you make music again. After you look at what he did with that project, not like a revenge tour type of thing, but I feel like you saw all his hunger come out. He just wanted to prove to everybody, he's like, no, like, I'm definitely back. Like, this is definitely his second resurrection, and like, that's just big comeback, I guess so to say.
For my list then, my top three, my third one is going to be 808s. 808s for me, I think a lot of those songs are just seriously underrated. The beats are really underrated as well. I think those are some, at least for me, some of those beats on there I think are some of the best ones he's ever done. They don't do a lot necessarily for some of them, but I think it proves that you don't have to do a lot to like get the message across.
Yeah.
And that's something I really like with music in general. I don't need a lot. I don't need anything too crazy. I just need what's there to be good. Like songs like 6 through 10, like Streetlights is one. Paranoid I think is super underrated of a song. Being in My Nightmares, I think that's a really good song. I'm not a huge fan of Barry Bonds from Graduation, but I think this is like way better than that song. I really like a themed album more. It all just goes really well together too. Like the theme is clearly seen through like song 1 till the end. My second one I put College Dropout. It was a really good like debut album for him, obviously, but it's my little issue with it is I feel like it's a bit long, and I think that there are still a little bit of filler in there. What not necessarily like there's not necessarily trash songs or anything like that, but just certain aspects in the album where you can feel like it's running a little long, and I feel like with my first pick, Late Registration, I think that's kind of like, for me, that's like the same thing as College Dropout, but just kind of fine-tuned for me. It feels like it's just the same theme of College Dropout, but just kind of fine-tuned, basically. One of my favorite songs on number 2, though, like on College Dropout, 2 Words. I think that's an underrated song, but that's the one that really stands out to me. I think the album ends really well, too, especially if you go back to it. Nowadays, back to that last song, he explains basically how he came up and stuff, and I think that was a really cool song that didn't date, like it's not dated at all, because of when you go back to it then it's like, oh crap, like for a younger person they can see like how he kind of came up. My number 1, Late Registration, like I said, it's just kind of like the fine-tuned version of College Dropout. There's the hits on there, there's some underrated songs on there. Everything that's applied to College Dropout is there, and then it's just kind of like just better to me. I like the older style of Kanye a lot, and it still manages to do that while still being like not full of like immature fluff. That's my top 3. Let me know down below what your list is for the Kanye albums. What's your least favorite or favorite? I'm really curious to see what everybody has to say about this. Yeah, that's gonna conclude the video, guys. Hit the thumbs up button if you enjoyed the video, and please subscribe if you haven't already. And this is Shuttleboy, and I'm out, guys. Peace.
Peace.